Hi, welcome to another episode of Teen Pride Book Talks. This is the show on AADL TV where I take a few minutes each episode to talk about a young adult book that is both inclusive of and representative of folks in the LGBTQIA+ community. My name is Lucy, and the book that I am sharing with you today is called Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens by Tanya Boteju. And this is the story of Nima Kamara Clark. She is a biracial queer girl living sort of bored in her small town. Her mother is Sri Lankan. Her father is white. Her mother has recently left Nima and her father with really no explanation. So Nima's confused and she's missing her mom. She is in love with her best friend, but her best friend happens to be straight, so that romantic love is not reciprocated. And she's sort of just feeling blah. So other than her best friend Ginny that she was in love with, she also has a best friend named Charles, and Charles and Nima do everything together. Nima and Charles also keep running into this guy, Gordon, who's been bullying both of them for sort of their whole life. This is a small town, so everybody knows each other. And right at the beginning of the story, it's summer. Nima goes to a festival with Charles that they go to every summer in their town. They look forward to it. And Nima wanders into this tent where she is introduced to the world of drag. So her life starts to change from that moment on. She meets people at that tent. Well, she's urged by the people in the tent to come back later. So she walks home with Charles. She doesn't want to tell him where she's going. She goes back to the festival and into this new world. And she meets a drag queen there named Deirdre, who sort of takes Nima under her wing. And she meets a drag king there named Winnow, who she is pretty attracted to and pretty interested in. She gets to know Winnow and Deirdre pretty quickly in different ways. She definitely is attracted to Winnow, and she feels like there might be something there. So that is something she starts to explore. And then she has Deirdre as sort of this mentor who is showing her the world of drag and also letting her know that I think this is a place where you could feel really comfortable and you could start to discover what it feels like to live in your own skin. So Deirdre starts to help Nima figure out how to enter into the world of drag. Throughout all of this, Gordon, the town bully, is sort of reappearing, and oftentimes at venues where Nima is as part of the drag world. Nima experiments with drag and she has some pretty clunky moments. Her first routines are a little awkward. This book does a great job of depicting the intricacies of the drag world. And there are so many different types of drag queens and drag kings in this book. It goes all the way from like the first blush of meeting other queer people that you might be interested in to exploring where you really belong in the LGBTQIA+ community or where you belong in the drag community. One thing I really loved about this book is that it sends a message that you can make mistakes and you will make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. And you can be given a second chance when you make mistakes if you own up to your mistakes, that you're not going to get everything perfectly on the first try with other people, with the way that you're presenting yourself. There are just a lot of ways that you have to take different steps to figure out who you are and how you relate to people. And this book does a wonderful job of showing the realities of how relationships can form. Friendships, romantic relationships, parent and child relationships, just even adults. There's a lot of really great adult role models that Nima has. She has a woman who was the best friend of her mother, who she works for. She has Deirdre, this drag queen. Her father is a great supportive parent who happens to wear muumuus when he's cooking breakfast for her. So he's a very interesting guy as well. And the book shows the difference between what can happen in your life if you have supportive adults around it, if you don't have supportive adults or a supportive community. And we have sort of the example of Nima versus Gordon and how their worlds are very different because of the support that they receive or that they lack. Gordon just sometimes feels like he's in the wrong body, but he doesn't have that much more to say than that at this point. He's still on that journey. And this book shows that you don't have to have all the answers right away. And you might never have all the answers, but it's good to be asking the questions. And it's especially good if you have an audience to ask the questions to that receives them and hears them and sees you. And so that book has this in so many different ways. One of my favorite parts of this book were the expressions that Nima uses when she feels shock, dismay, sadness, happiness. They are very different from normal teenage expressions to convey all those things. She's always using a very interesting combination of words. Sometimes they sound very old-fashioned. Sometimes it's just two things that you would never expect together. There's no profanity. It's just extremely imaginative and hilarious. And I don't think in the book she ever uses the same one twice. So that was a fun thing to look out for and to notice throughout the book. And it just gave Nima a little bit of her own edge that was very unique. So this book is really a book about identity, about sexual identity, about gender. There are some race components. Nima does talk about what it's like to be a brown girl in this mostly white town. So that comes into it a little bit. It's about friendships, and it's certainly about giving people a second chance. And it is about creating a family and a community of your own by finding people that support you. The book explores important issues and introduces you to a wonderful cast of characters. It is funny and it's generally lighthearted. I highly recommend Kings and Queens and In-Betweens by Tanya Boteju. Thanks for joining me.